On your brain, I wish you retain all those information that you have taken since morning. So today I just want to carry on what I left yesterday and to bring it forward in today's lecture is that a very important emerging cultural methodology in social sciences is the ethnographic method. It is also often alternatively referred as ethnographic research also. To put it simply, in social sciences, what does this ethnography stands for? You take all the social sciences, they are looking after this particular method of looking into the phenomena which is under the study or under the research process. There are two words here, ethno and graphy. Whenever we use this prefix, ethno, ethnic, it refers to culture. Ethnic foods, ethnic dressing. Today they say in many universities, colleges, schools, ethnic dress. Ethnic dress means that one has to come in their own cultural, their own groups, traditional attire. Ethnic food, so there will be an ethnic food means everybody brings their own ethnic, their own cultural food to one place and we can have a variety of platter of different foods from different countries. So graphy means basically writing. So it is writing about the culture, ethnography. But ethnography is not just only limited to sociology and anthropology. Today if you look at the area of all the social sciences, management, economics, psychology, education, political science, even to some extent linguistic studies, all social sciences, tourism, even to a bit of commerce and management, are also trying to see this method as something very important and they can bring into different perspectives of research insights onto the board. Ethnographic research has three major components. One is the theoretical part of ethnographic research or ethnographic method. What is the theory behind ethnography? What does it spell out? What is the rationale behind this ethnographic method that we have to use? If somebody asks me, sir, why should we use ethnographic method? So there is a theory behind it. And what kind of methodology that again we have to use in ethnographic research? And how do we analyze the data? And how do we interpret the data? And lastly, what are the strengths and weaknesses of this entire process of ethnographic research in social sciences? Yesterday I was referring to you about on phenomenology, which talks about the experiences gained by people in a given cultural or social settings. And if you talk today, management science, when we talk of organization, they have different concepts called organizational culture. We talk of school as a social system, which also has a particular cultural process. And you take informal economics, you take any kind of domain of research inquiry, it has certain things which over a period of time, which culminates into a phenomenon called culture. Culture doesn't mean simply the ways of life. Culture is very broad. Culture has enormous ways of looking at into of a particular social phenomena which is under the research investigation. Ethnography is inherently qualitative, completely qualitative. It it doesn't mean that we are against or we abhor quantitative data, but what is more important in ethnographic research is the qualitative nature of data that you are going to gather and collect over a period of time. So somebody, asked me, sir, ethnography is basically a description. You go to a small scale society. For example, if I go to West Sikkim, I want to study Bhutia society there. So I select a small village in West Sikkim, or I want to study. Many people come to Sikkim to study Lepchas. Immediately they rush to Zongu. They stay there in Zongu, and they come out after 1 year and they'll try to give a complete description of a particular social phenomenon. Ethnographic research is not only just only about description of a particular event or a particular topic or a particular issue that you are trying to look into. But today, if you look at all the developmental programs that is going on in India, the government's issues. Yesterday, someone is asking, we want to study how the government populist schemes are being catered or being reached to the needy or who are at the receiving end. So, ethnographic method. So I use these interchangeably. Sometimes I use method, or sometimes I use research, but the meaning is same. So ethnographic method is also used in many developmental programs. For example, I want to do a program evaluation. For example, I want to see whether, to what extent the government is catering to the empowerment process of or the marginalized or the vulnerable communities in a particular state or in particular region. So in that sense, it is not simply, yesterday I was telling to him that it is not simply, whether money has reached there or not. The central government has sanctioned 500 crores or 1,000 crores. So how much you spent on that? That is not the actual. Developmental programs and evaluation programs need an in-depth study. You have to look into to what extent the stakeholders have gained access to the given resources which are being extended by the different states across in the country and elsewhere, outside the countries also. So in program evaluation, in program monitoring, we use ethnographic method. 2 years back, Sikkim government, Social Justice and Empowerment Department has approached me and they given me a huge project to look into various tribal welfare schemes which are being sponsored by the Tribal Welfare Department, Government of India. To what extent these welfare schemes have reached the various tribal communities in Sikkim. So we undertook a completely ethnographic research study across all the 4 districts of Sikkim. So we presented the report in terms of education, in terms of livelihoods, in terms of women empowerment issues, in terms of other economic benefits, youth empowerment. All these things requires a complete detailed study of. So in that sense, ethnography is not simply describing about God or describing about religion, describing about food, what conventionally people think. So in that sense, ethnographic research goes beyond this thick description, and now it is in the arena of program evaluation, management, in the education, in economics, you name it, in social work, psychology, or even to, for example, if I want to do a complete ethnographic study of Sikkim Manipal Hospital. So I wish to, if somebody is interested in health aspects or somebody is interested into the health sector, I suggest him to do a PhD exclusively on Sikkim Manipal Hospital. There is a lot can be done on just, we don't need to go anywhere in the villages and all. Nearby Sikkim Manipal is there. So what do you study in Sikkim Manipal Hospital? Somebody says it's an hospital, people come, no. There is so much to dig in, to look into the various organizational cultures. So I use this suffix culture. So the theory of ethnographic research says that any social phenomena cultural phenomena operates under a theoretical background called, or a theoretical framework called culture. Culture doesn't mean, again I'm saying, it is not just simply a way of life. Culture is the way of how do we conduct ourselves in everyday life in terms of any social aspect that cultural aspect that you used to try, or you chose to look into the nuances of these things. So in that sense, ethnographic research starts with this theoretical premise and poses the questions that, and how people acquire this culture. People as a member of a society, as a member of any group, from small to big, you develop these attributes of particular culture or things, because culture is shared. We share the culture with the fellow members. And we cannot act beyond a community's shared behavior. If you act in a different way, people will say that, for example, language. You have to speak which is intelligible to me or to the other member. If you speak something wrong, which is ineligible, we cannot understand you. This has been, experimented by Emile Durkheim in France. He wanted to see whether all people following the same culture, to why culture is shared. So in that sense, he experimented himself. He went to a shop, he gave a colored note, some paper, color paper, and he said that, sir, I want to give me that food. Immediately the shopkeeper saw the color paper and said, this is not currency, I cannot give this thing. So that means even money is being shared. Money has its own value unless it is not shared by other people. You take a 100 rupee note, the other person also should accept it, the third person should also accept, fourth person should also accept it. So in that sense he failed. Then he thought, okay, monetary systems are also shared phenomena, it's a shared behavior. Paper per se doesn't have any value. Gandhi face on a 100 rupees note, but how do you see what value you give to that paper at a consensus level, which determines the value? Then language. Everybody is calling the tube light as tube light, and you come up and say that, no, I don't like the word tube light, I want to give some other word for that. And it doesn't work. If you don't like the word, it is up to you, but it doesn't mean that you have to change the word. I don't want to call tube light, I want to call tube light in some other word, and you start using it, no one will accept that. Not only language, not only monetary, the ways, the behavior. So the whole point here is that, culture means in terms of how all the attributes from in everyday life has been shared by these members. So even in an organization, in a management perspective, we call organizational culture. Every institution, every organization, whatever, in business terms, company or office, it has its own culture. One has to abide. I'm not talking of rules and regulations here. I'm talking of the culture provides in an institution. You go to a school. School has its own ways and means of, sharing or imparting knowledge. So people say that school culture. Some, and we often divide these things, that this culture, that culture, this culture. So in that sense, people share these attributes from other peoples, and they derive meanings of what they do. If you ask them, why are you doing, what makes a sense of doing that, they make a sense of what we are doing. Yesterday we are talking about this hermeneutic things, that meanings are all there, then people will give these meanings at various levels. So then ethnography looks into how the ethnographer, the researcher who does this ethnographic research is often called as an ethnographer, like geographer, cartographer, and so people in social science research literature we call as an ethnographer. I'm an ethnographer. So what kind of ethnographer are you? So I'm looking into these issues for my MPhil, PhD, or any other research project that you're looking. The ethnographer tries to look into the people's experiences in a particular setting. Ethnography started in the social sciences, basically with sociology, and it has been fully systematized in anthropology by Malinowski, who's went to a far-off island in Western Australia, and he established himself. He stayed there for 2 years in small island, and he's considered to be the father of the fieldwork tradition in anthropology. Then later on, all the other social sciences picked up the scientific ways of looking at the cultural data. Now I'm again using this word scientific ways. So again, I'm stressing the point that scientific means to what extent we are objective, to what extent we minimize the subjective aspects of our research process. So it is basically qualitative, inherently a long-term fieldwork. Ethnography is not 1 day, 2 day, 3 day. It requires a continuous long-term fieldwork in a particular ecological setting, be it urban, be it Manipal, be it a small tribal society, be it an informal BD or any tobacco making center or a milk union. I can take up an ethnographic study of Sikkim milk union. I can take up a study on poultry. I can take up a study on organic farming. I can take up a study on whatnot, you name it. So in that sense, it requires a long-term intensive field work. It is not simply going with a schedule, asking questions and coming back and putting it in a statistical framework and results. So it requires, when you say that it's a long-term field work, and again I'm telling you, ethnographic research is not only limited to small-scale societies. It is inherently happening in urban settings, in rural settings, and even at a global level. And what are the changes that are taking place contemporary in the postmodern times? We also look into that aspects. And there are two ways of looking at this whole ethnographic research is the emic and ethic perspective. Ethic perspective is that whether all cultures can be seen or judged according to one single culture, or all cultures are all relative in its own ways. For example, these questions like good and bad, right and wrong, correct and incorrect, how do we judge? We take our own, what is the standard culture? And with that standard culture can we see the other cultures? This is a positive. So if you take your culture as a standard culture, and we start looking at other cultures, that becomes an ethic approach in ethnographic research. Rather than emic approach means what is taking people's perceptions and people's experience in their own way. It is good in its own way. It is bad in its own way. It is relative. So these two approaches are very important in ethnographic method. Emic approach and ethic approach. Ethic approach is again generally called as a researcher's approach. What you think is correct. Emic approach is what the subjective people think is correct. If you are putting ethic approach in research methodology, you have to write in your proposal. If you take ethnographic method, is it what approach you are taking? Emic approach or ethic approach? The research study takes emic approach. That means people's opinion, their experiences, not researchers' experience, not our point of view, not how you look at them. It is how they look themselves. An insider's view, more simply an insider's view and an outsider's view. Immediately people come here, for example, very small examples. Many tourists comes to, tourism is a big, very potential research these days, how tourist perceives the other cultures. They think, one dominant culture thinks that, hey, look at these people, how they eat, look at these people, how they dress, look at these people, how they speak. What kind of how can they eat this animal? They give these judgments. So in terms of what you call stereotype. So emic approach looks into why are they eating? What made them to eat in such thing? So in that questions, these ethnographic unravels the nuances of a cultural phenomenon. In that sense, it is multi-layered and it is contextualized, completely contextualized. And importantly, it is empirical. Empirical in a sense, first-hand information. When you write your research proposals in your research methodology, please write, my study is qualitative, study is empirical, study takes on a big approach. These are very important when you write your research methodology. So that means no one can question the approach that you have taken when you do apply ethnographic method in your research process. If you do not spell out all these things, then how do you say that what kind of nature of your study? If you say that this is empirical, which is against historical, primary sources, first time information, first hand information, you are going there, you are with the people, you are learning from the people, from your own topic. So ethnographic research has certain core principles when we do. One is this first principle in ethnographic method or research is participation. Full participation. Participation in what sense, right? When we enter into the field, even in an urban setting like, or even a research setting like Sikkim Manipal Hospital, I want to study the entire dynamics of organizational culture of Sikkim Manipal Hospital, or I want to study the political dynamics of Sikkim, or I want to study Sikkim Milk Union. I want to study the what you call the taxi drivers of Sikkim or in Gangtok. No one is studying, or I want to study the hotel culture. What is happening in tourism? All hotels are there. No study has been there. Hotels, tourists, in Gangtok itself, it is all happening in front of our eyes. What is happening is rural urban migration. Why there is migration, livelihoods migration from rural to urban areas in Sikkim? What you call the ecological refugees. Why they are leaving behind in their natural habitats, and they are first-rate citizens in their own village. They have their own house, they have their own things there, but you come to urban areas, you become a second-hand citizen. People in India, people flock to Hyderabad, Bombay, Delhi, Bangalore, and they become second-rate and third-rate citizens. They leave their native places. One can study why there is inbound migration, why there is internal migration. So one can do an ethnographic study, go back to the villages and see why the people are becoming refugees in their own place. Or yesterday someone is asking me how to study the populist schemes. Narendra Modi's government, 5 years, what did they do? How to study that? 25 years or 30 years of Chamling's SDF party, what qualitative changes have brought to people in Sikkim? One can do an ethnographic study, or what is the dynamics behind the political dynamics of within the small, tiny Himalayan kingdom like Sikkim? What is happening? Or these things gives enormous potential of looking at this method of ethnography inherently, which is qualitative in nature. And most importantly, what I'm referring is this empirical empiricism. Empirical in nature means you are with the people, you are learning from the people in different ecological settings, and you are getting the data. Now, what methods that we use in collecting data? Ethnographic research uses multi-methodological approaches. We are not confined to single methods of collecting data. So how do you collect data? Conventional data collection, interviews, schedules, focused group discussions, what you call FGDs, case studies. What else? What more there for collecting data? Did I miss anything more? You collect data through interviews, formal, informal, structured interviews, semi-structured interviews, unstructured interviews, schedules. There is a fundamental difference between schedule and a questionnaire. Can anyone tell? Or is it interchangeable?
Yes, sir. It is interchangeable, sir.
Is it interchangeable, schedule and a questionnaire?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Any more? Please remember, this question will be asked in your assistant professor's interviews. Simply, they will not ask about your PhD. They'll mostly ask questions on research methodology.
Yeah.
They'll try to confuse you. Can you tell What is the difference between schedule and a questionnaire? They'll ask you a question like this, and you'll be confused what to say. Same, interchangeable. Anything? Can you add to my knowledge? Are they same? Are they different or interchangeable?
Both are different but interchangeable, sir.
Both are different but interchangeable. A very intelligent answer. Cute answer. I like it. No? Please remember forever, a questionnaire is always called mailed questionnaire. M-A-I-L-D. Mail. We mail the questionnaire. Suppose you want to get data, person is in Delhi. You don't need to go to Delhi. In those days, in the olden days, we used to put the questions and we make a post to Delhi. God knows whether it reads, there will be a poor return rate, that's a different story. We don't usually post something. A questionnaire is generally called a mailed questionnaire. Schedule means the researcher or the ethnographer personally collects. This is the small subtle difference between these two. You will get assistant professorship if you answer this question in the interview. And they will say, oh my gosh, look at this lady, very sharp in research methodology. And I must thank Dr. Yurida for making you 10 days rigorous coaching in these things. I think 90% will get assistant professors who will face these things. Because most of the questions will be on research methodology. Because they do not know your topic. They cannot go ask beyond your topic. Because I know Hemant has studied on Tibetan conflict management in Tibetan society. I do not know what is Tibetan, but I will definitely grill him on research methodology. If I am in the interview panel. Hemant, you tell me this, Hemant, you tell me that, how did you collect data? But Tibetan society, I cannot ask questions. Now again, schedule, basically, we give it, there are two ways. If the informant is literate, sometimes we give it to him and says, that's how you answer it, you give it to me back. If the informant is illiterate, he cannot read, and he will ask, what is your name, what is these things. So, which population you are giving? To literate population or to an illiterate population? We give it and say, sir, I will collect next week. But poor return rate. People never do all these things. Because inherently, psychologically, all people are lazy. Inherently. But some people, we come out of this, lethargy. But inherently, we are lazy. We postpone, who cares? Hemant gives me a schedule to me and put it on my table. Sir, you fill this. Hemant only know I can do it later. And again he will ask me, sir, mujhe wo diya na, wo kya ho gaya? I'm doing it. At a certain point comes, sir, he will sit in front of me, sir, time nahi hai, sir, aap fill karo abhi. I have no choice. So it takes time. What happens in these things? So in that sense, mailed questionnaire and a schedule. And schedule again you all know, structured, unstructured, semi-structured. The safest bet always says that it is semi-structured. Don't use the words structured and unstructured. Unstructured means it is completely haywire. Structured means yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, yes or no, that is structured. You cannot go beyond. Closed-end and open-ended questions. Why do you like? There are so much of kahani they will write. Open-ended questions. Closed-ended means do you yes or no means it's closed. You cannot go beyond that. So in that sense, it is multi-methodological. We use, so tell me, are there any methods beyond interviews, schedules, case studies, focused group discussions? You can enlighten me. I'll be very happy to know to collect data beyond these four methods. Apart from these four domain techniques, this is too interchangeable. Technique or method, how do you perceive it anyway? Case study, interview, schedule, focused group discussions. Apart from this, what are the other methods of data collection? Primary data collection.
Observation.
Can you observe?
Observation. Very good. I am coming to that. Observation. Anything more? We have to elaborate. I am going on observation only now. Thank you for leading the discussion now.
An interview can go along with observation.
Yeah.
Interview, observation. Yeah, I'll also come to that. So observation here, one of the two ways of looking at these observation and participant observation. So ethnography uses, when we say ethnography, the synonym is participant observation, not simply observation. Observer at a distance, participant as an observer, rather than participant observation. So what does it mean by participant observation? So we anthropologists, we take pride and we say that our methodology is very sharp, our methodology is very strong because we use participant observation. We go to the NGOs and says that why you should be hired in our NGO, in our thing. Sir, we are technically sound than other social scientists. Political science, they don't do participant observation. Psychologists, they don't do participant there because it is quasi-experimental. Other social sciences, they are not very keen in participant, but anthropology as a domain, then comes sociology.
Social work. Yeah.
Social work is again a charity business. If somebody is hungry, let us cook food and give food to them, make them happy. I'll come to social work business. There is a lot of theory for social work also. I'll come why we differ with social work and anthropology. So we are so take pride. We are not proud, but we take pride in terms that anthropologists are equipped. We have this lens, anthropological lens that we carry everywhere, and we use this word called participant observation. So what does this mean by participant observation? We participate in their everyday life activities, and what our friend is saying, that we observe the phenomena of a particular social theme that is under your research study. Not necessary if sometimes they ask, sir, if I am studying Sikkim Manipal Hospital, the entire organizational culture of Manipal as a private, as a CRH referral hospital, which is semi-government or government, should I be also a patient? Should I also go like a patient to study the entire? Not necessary in that context. But the ethnographer goes to a village setting or any school setting. I was so fascinated when I was reading Meenakshi Tapan's work in 1997-98, the school ethnography of Rishi Valley School in New Delhi. It's a very good school ethnography. So Meenakshi Tapan spent continuously 1.5 years in Rishi Valley School in New Delhi, and that is an excellent school ethnography of and educational research started looking at the entire ethnographic process of studying the entire schooling process, because it's a continuous process, not a one-time and management and economics. Other social sciences started looking at this, what does this ethnographic research offers more insights into the problem which is under investigation. So in that sense, participant observation is the main weapon that an ethnographer uses in the field setting. But again, the question comes: what are the levels of participation? Does it mean that should we be at the periphery, or should we be in the center, or to what extent one can be looking to these whole aspects of participation? And participation observation says that unless we don't participate, we don't get the real meaning or insight into the whole aspect. Many examples I can give you. When students do field work, they also go along with them to try to have alcoholic drink with the villagers. They try to have dance with them. And the extreme cases is that they marry a local girl. If you ask them, why did you marry a local girl? Sir, participant observation, sir. A famous anthropologist, of course, is a great contributor of Northeast India, Verrier Elvin. He's a very famous anthropologist in India. Of course, he's a advisor of tribal affairs to Nehru, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. When he was doing, he written many books on Northeast India. He had some multiple wives. Meghalaya, he has one wife. Nagaland, he has one wife. Somebody asked, sir, were you relevant? Why you have participant observation? If I don't, that's why I'll get the insider's view. So people misuse this pattern, participant observation. They say that we mix with the local people. Unless if you don't mix with the local people, you cannot gain the actual information from the insider's view or insider's perception on how insiders.
That was not a misuse, sir. It was a sacrifice.
Sacrifice in what sense?
With research. Yeah?
Who sacrificed? Elvin or the women sacrificed? Who sacrificed who?
It's up to you.
It's up to me. How do I interpret?
How you interpret it as a misuse? Same way.
Misuse in the sense that methodologically, yes, I'll come to that part. It's a very good question. How did I use the word misuse? I'll come to that because I'm talking of the core principles. The second principle is the full participation. One is participation, and second one is a trusted outsider, commitment. Second core value in ethnographic research. The third core value in ethnographic research is participative ethics. To what extent you are ethical? Participative ethics. Third core principle in ethnographic research. I give my own example. I don't want to go any other example. When I am doing my PhD, I was very young actually, like 21, 20 actually. I finished my master's at 20. So 20 I joined PhD. 20 I joined. How means I will tell you. 15 I completed my matriculation. 17 I completed my plus 2. Sorry, 18 I completed my bachelor's. Then 20 I completed my master's. 20 and a half I joined PhD. So I took special permission, double promotions. 4th class, 5th class I did not study. 9th class I did not study. All double promotions. Jumper. That's why I lost all my hair. stayed back and I was so hurried. Anyway, participative ethics. I'm coming to this point. Use or misuse, as our friend is saying that. When I was doing fieldwork in tribal areas on schooling process, when I was staying in a small hut back in 90s, mid 90s and all, the local young girls, 8th class, 9th class girls, they have a fascination because I'm from a non-plain boy which come to a highly hilly tribal areas. They used to visit my hut. They used to ask me what is this, what is that, So in as a researcher, I have certain ethics. What is that commitment to me? See, I am doing research on these people. I came to do my PhD here. I should not take advantage of their ignorance. I should not take, because they do not know anything. They are very innocent communities, tribal communities in Visakhapatnam district. So if I say that, no, I want to know exactly how learning process is taking place in tribal areas, and I befriended with a girl and I misuse my own identity and my own privilege as a PhD scholar, it's beyond their imagination. Because a small, simple graduate is a big thing in tribal societies those days. So that to a PhD, the young boy, all these things. I had a lot of curly hair, this much like Sai Baba hair. Yeah, in those days. So they have these, notions of, these things and like what I'm saying that, participative ethics means to what extent I should be with them. Though they are coming, have a trust on me, that, somebody, take advantage of this whole situation. So there lies what kind of ethical practices that we have to. And another core principle is representation. How do you represent this community to the outside world? When you are doing research on them, representation is also, in that process yesterday I was also trying to say this whole reflection and reflexivity. Where do you stand? How you are being looked upon? How, whether your presence is being kind of alter their behavior. For example, in 2000, beginning of 2015, February, March, our then Vice Chancellor wanted to see how teachers are teaching in the classroom. He wanted to see a process, check how the teaching is going on in the Sikkim University. So he sent one cameraman, video cameraman, to all the departments. Because I knew how this participant observer affects these things. So in my classroom, I think perhaps it is all with other departments also. In my upstairs, my class department. So I am teaching here, students are teaching. The cameraman is standing in the corner of the room, he is recording the entire proceedings. Immediately I could see a change in the entire classroom. The natural behavior has changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Students, before the camera, they were texting to their friends, to their mom, to their uncles, friends and all these boyfriends, girlfriends and all those things. When the camera came, they stopped their cameras. And completely head straight and they are looking at me also. Like, no, they are not even turning, all boys and girls are completely like, they are not even dropping their eyelids also. Because camera is one, because this video will goes to Vice Chancellor. On the other hand, my behavior has also changed.
Yeah.
I am also not at ease because camera is there. I cannot give any anti-state statements. I cannot give any statements which is beyond, which is apolitical statements. My movements, my gestures, my standing position, my entire natural ways of, I'm so, again, I'm reconscious of my own language and choosing my words, my entire etiquette. I was so like, very truly professional rather, So then at the end of the class, then I say, why this outsider, camera as an outsider, has changed the entire environment of the classroom. The natural thing has gone.
Yeah.
The same case, when the researcher goes to a field, people are not at ease in the first instance, in an ethnographic research process. People always try to hide because you are an outsider. So the core value here, I'm referring to my friends says that, misuse, use participative ethics, and in terms of that, how reflexive, how you gather the data, how you, cull out all these things, information, even in the presence of the researcher in a given natural setting. When camera is there, everybody is there. If you see in the daily news channels, if the news reporter comes to an office and all, they'll be so busy working and all these things. When the camera is gone, gone. Then again they're back to again their own thing. Why this camera? Here that is a camera. The people with the journalists will run into the government offices, they're trying to into the hospital, into the school, into this thing, into that thing. Everybody again conscious because you have been given to the outside world. So you change your entire things and all. So surveillance, that is what I think we have to also bring in this Foucauldian concept of surveillance. That how surveillance is being. Are you really at ease? Are you really, to what extent the whole philosophical concept of freedom, and are you the concept of will when we bring in this Foucauldian concept of these things? That's why one famous philosopher says that men means here I'm saying human beings, because if feminists will attack me if I say no, this was my experience long time back. When I was saying that anthropology is the science of man, I said immediately, and hardcore feminists said, hey, how can you say anthropology is the science of man? Change the word man. Then I changed the word. Anthropology is the study of human beings. So anyway, one famous philosopher said that human beings are born free, but we are chained everywhere. What is the social chains that we have? In the society, these customs, these no, you don't do this surveillance. So where is the concept of freedom? What is freedom in that sense? So when we come back to these whole ideas of observer in the field, observer to what extent we should observe. Let them be free at natural thing and you are at the backdrop. So what happens when you are backed up? Are they really in their natural settings, or they try to influence you, for example, a ritual practice going on, or some kind of a puja is going on. How the researcher presence affects the entire in a given small scale setting. In that sense, the levels of participation is also very important when we do the entire process of participant observation. So, if somebody is doing on fishing communities, they also go along with the fishermen into the sea. They see how they are catching the fish, and you come back. Sometimes, no, there is a latest techniques on it in a video recording. To what extent the camera captures the real movements. So one of the other, as you are adding to me, that observation, participant observation, and the pictures, the camera, and the voice recorders, like interviews and all, we use these technology. To what extent technology facilitates or extends your data collection. So one is immediately they're going and shooting the film and they're bringing and says that, sir, this is what I brought. They are not really living with the people. They're going into the field, they're doing research, but they're bringing a film. Sir, this is what I shot. This is what I have seen. But again, one has to also look into, there are a lot of critique on the entire visuality or the visual methodologies that has been emerging in social sciences. To what extent the visual methodologies really portray or give the exact picture of, many researchers like Sarah Pink and all, they try to give a lot of theory behind, the visuality of, as a cultural methodology in the social sciences, to whether camera gives you the actual picture. And people say that, one picture speaks 1,000 words rather than whatever text. And they say that, visuality itself is a text. Rather than you go, you do in the field work, you all collect the data, you interpret and you bring it. So in that sense, ethnographic research method uses multi-methodological techniques in collecting the data. So starting from classical rudimentary aspects like primary data, what you collect, like interviews, schedules, case studies. Case studies again a different, altogether different take. Case studies looks into various aspects of. It is not simply about one person. It is entire the lifetime that we are asking to. It brings on memory also when we are asking for case studies. In medical research, they do case studies. In management, they do case studies on sick companies, in rich companies, flourishing companies. They try to give more analysis of why this unit is being very flourishing, why this unit is not flourishing, why it has become sick. They do a comparative case studies and all. But in social sciences also, we try to give more justification using these case studies as one of the important techniques in bringing data to the table. And now, ethnographic research is basically a process and a product. The entire range, the conducting of research is the process, the way you start, the way epistemological position that you have taken. Basically, we take phenomenological standpoint. A phenomenological standpoint is your ontological ground. With that thing that you are getting, that what is that? Phenomenological says that people's experience are important. It is not my experience. It is not the way I see the tribals. It is how the tribals see themselves and the outside world. It is how the organization see it in itself and how the organization is seeing outside it. So in that sense, insider's view is more important rather than the researcher's view on how that gauge is more important than our gauge. If you bring your gauge, then the whole research is wrong at more or less many levels in that sense, that because we bring in necessarily our standpoint, our aspects into the way we look at it. So in that sense, one has to go with a complete, without any kind of dispositions that we look into these what you call research sites, what I call multiple sites. If you go with that kind of a domain, you cannot get any data. So one has to go with this completely open mind, without any of that I want to test a hypothesis or I want to see whether what is happening in. So with that, open perspective that we have to enter into any kind of a field. So in that sense, this process takes on learning from the people, living with the people, like starting learning their language, learning their culture, be with them, and gaining insider's experience, insider's point of view. In that sense, this is a process. What is the product? Product can be, ethnographic research culminates into either a text, if it is a dissertation, if it is a PhD thesis, if it is a report, if it is an evaluation report, it can come in various forms. The product can be different. So one has to remember it is a process, it requires all these things, and ultimately what it comes is the end product which comes in various forms. The other important thing is that once you collect the data through various multi-methodological techniques, like whatever techniques, and people say triangulation method. What is triangulation method? Triangulation method is nothing but it is multi-methodological. Whatever method technique you use it because to elicit the information, that is triangulation. People confuse and they make it more abstract. Triangulation method, grounded theory, all big words, not necessary. Let us make it fundamentally simple, that multi-methodological. That means it is the researcher's choice on the field. If you feel that visuality is required, suppose you want to record a particular religious event, how much you can write about that? We cannot write. Because you want to capture the emotions of the people, the eye movements, the colors of a particular festival, how much you can write in the book. Picture takes the exact what is happening, the colors, the emotions, the feelings, the body gestures, all these things can be captured through pictures and motion pictures. That is what the videography that people use it. But now, once we collect the corpus data, then start coming analyzing the data. Analysis of data is not simply analyzing data in a conventional sense in ethnographic research. Analyzing the data itself is theory generation. Because when you start analyzing the data, you try to form a theory behind it. Once you come out certain kinds of observable facts and figures and everything, the researcher has a choice to frame a theory out of. You have your own theory in social sciences. Not necessary that one has to simply follow, imitate someone else's theory. So on your own you can formulate a theory when you are slowly analyzing the data. It is not simply adding up. So how you analyze the data? Content analysis, domain analysis, content analysis. What is the recurrent theme which is coming out of all this content? What people is trying to say, the major aspects in these things, we can call it out in content analysis, domain analysis. We can split the data into different domains, which also been respective to each topic. I cannot say exactly what is domain things, it depends on management, economics, conflict studies or migration studies. In that sense, we try to bring out these main aspects in content analysis and domain analysis when we are analyzing the data. Okay, now once we analyze the data, the another step is reliability and validity. Yesterday also I've been discussing to what extent your data is reliable, your research is reliable, and to what extent your data is legitimate. Please.
So how grounded theory is different to ethnographic? Is it necessary to generate a theory in ethnographic research also?
Yeah. Social science, please. It's a very good question. How grounded theory is different from ethnographic? Grounded theory in my sense is basically, to put it simply, alternative, it is empirical. Grounded theory is basically looking into people's perspectives, all the methodologies which have been first-handed, and ethnography is a part of the grounded theory. Observation, participant observation, interview. Grounded theory as such, it is not a theory basically. It is taking perspectives from the people by the researcher. It is processual rather. Processual in the sense it is a continuous process. For example, I understand you are from education department. So you are working on teachers or students or management. That means you are with the people, you are with the stakeholders, you are with the the people that you are going to study. You are grounded. Grounded means you are not above. Like in earlier social science research in sociology and anthropology, what we call armchair. Armchair means, suppose I want to study West Sikkim, people in community in West Sikkim. I never visit West Sikkim and I wrote a book in Gangtok itself. I don't want to move out of my house. It is not grounded theory then. That means, grounded theory means that the researcher goes to the field, whatever field may be, rural, urban, tribal, management, whatever, even in the space also. The researcher engages with the participant. The researcher interaction with the people at a maximum level gives you the groundedness of the topic which is under investigation. Am I clear to you, sir? And ethnography is a part of that grounded thing, which being ably guided by other techniques that we use in grounded. But fundamentally, I believe grounded theory is basically, it is with the one-to-one interaction at one level and with the entire group that is under investigation empirically. Because if it is non-empirical, it is not grounded theory. You have the first information in that sense. So, coming back to this questions of reliability and validity and legitimacy of your own research. To what extent your data is legitimate? To what extent your research holds reliability and validity concepts? Yesterday, again, I am giving you the same example. How internal validity, face validity, all these things we study in psychology. In what extent the information is telling true? To what extent your research is reliable after 20, 30 years of, for example, today I studied family structure of Limbu society in Sikkim. I wrote a book on marriage systems and family systems. Today it is happening here, as my French is saying, grounded theory I use with the people in the field setting, with the subjective experiences, with the using of terminology, how it is being accepted in that sense. Whether this data is reliable, is it repeated? Because reliable, how do we define reliability? Reliability means repeatability. Your research, if I test once again, I should get the same result. You are saying the shape and size of the paper is like this. Okay, and you gave this research analysis to me and you left it. I want to test it again. What Hemant has given me, the size and shape of the paper, is it correct or not? I also test it. I also got the same result without not exactly same. Then I say, his research is reliable. That means it is repeating. Next day, some other ABC D person also will come, and also you want to test what Hemant has done on the Tibetan society. He will refer to this. To what extent Hemant research is reliable? You go and test again to there, and he says that his entire research is reliable. So that means the same results are repeating every time. Now the problem comes reliability in social science research. Whether to what extent your data, your research is reliable. I must tell you, social science research is subject to change. Today you wrote a polity of something and you wrote a book here, and after 30 years, after 10 years, I test it again, it will change. It will not give you the same result as what Hemant has done today. But that doesn't mean his research is unreliable. To some extent it should match, if not all. Because the social phenomena is under change. Family change, marriages change. Social phenomena has this, the undercurrents will change over a period of time. It is not like a physical object, the structure is same always. In that sense, reliability has its own ways of looking at it in social science research. At that point, it is very legitimate. At that point, it is completely grounded when we say that, yes, I did all these things. But it may have a subject to change, but that doesn't mean it is completely useless or it is unreliable. But in participant observation, in ethnographic research, reliability and validity becomes more strengthened because yesterday also I gave the same example. In the first instance, I ask someone, do you smoke? He will say no. Second, third, fourth time, he will say yes. Because more familiarity brings a trusted outsiderness. First time, this is the subject of ethnographic research. Reproductive health behavior. Couples will not tell anything in the first second instance. Third instance, they will tell, they will open up because they completely trust you. They have confidence in you that he is doing something and I want to say something because they're more afraid of the public opinion. How public opinion is that? Political surveys. You say something outside and you vote for someone. Pre-poll, exit polls, they say that, I voted for Modi ji, but inside you vote for someone. So this pre-poll, post-poll, I doubt the validity and reliability of pre-poll, post-poll. Why? Hemant can give a class on that. This is why pre-poll and post-poll, exit polls, he is more expert on political science. Because the public opinion is more important than that. Because this internal validity is more important. Because that is the nature of these surveys. But the saying goes in the US context, the people are very honest. If they ask you anything, they'll honestly tell you. Do you like Trump? Yes. Do you like, I don't like Trump? They are very honest. Because the structure of the society allows you to say something. Our structure of society will not make you to allow to keep certain things on your own. Religious things, political ideas, all these things. So this validity, reliability has more strengthened when you are in a long-term field work. Because it gets strengthened. Because when we ask certain things, we can get cross-checked. Second time we can have, third time, fourth time they will tell the honest things. So that gives you more scope for having more valid answers in the field itself. So that brings you credibility, that brings legitimacy to the entire ethnographic research in a long-term fieldwork methodology. But today, having said this, I want to move on the conventional ethnography to what are the contemporary ethnographies that is taking place in cultural methodologies. Today, in the entire social sciences, what we call multi-sited ethnography. Ethnography is not situated only in one ecological setting. Ethnography takes place from one setting to the another setting. So that means the researcher will move from one field of the same informant to another field. For example, in migration studies. In the village, we study the problems of migration, what happens in migration. And the researcher also moves along with the informants to the urban areas. So he will study in the village and he will also come with the informant to the urban area where he is being migrated. So it goes on different layers of your ethnographic research. Like conventional anthropological, sociological research means if you go to a village, you stay there for 6 months, you be with them, you imbibe with them, you be a part of the culture. Yesterday I was telling Professor Richard King, he became the chief of that country. Not necessary that he has to stay back, 6 months, 8 months, prolonged field work for a variety of reasons. That is not possible these. But what is happening in contemporary global scale is that multi-sited ethnography is going. So the research sites are moving from one plane to another plane, especially in migration studies, in refugee camps. What happens from this camp to another camp? And again, ethnographies are also very challenging in a sense in contemporary closed institutions like jail, like prison. How do you do research in a prison, in a jail? Entry, gender issues, policeman will be, suppose if you are asking a question to a prisoner, a policeman will be standing there. You don't have a free access when you are doing research with the prisoners. How do you tackle those issues? The researcher, the prisoner, and the policeman will be there. Because confidentiality is the biggest problem. Who knows? You are giving information to how to escape from the jail. So policeman will also be there. So ethnography takes place. So somebody asked you the other time when I was giving a lecture, so how to do ethnography in a jail? It's a very good question. Because jail is a closed institution, not like a village. Village you go anywhere, Manipal you go anywhere. Closed institutions requires a lot of ethics, Closed institutions like jails and other institutions where you're bounded by certain rules and regulations and you cannot come out of these things. So how do we tackle these things? Where do you stand as a researcher, as gender? And again, gender issues also comes in these kinds of surveillance, when camera is there, when someone is standing in you. How do, because the entire ethnographic process is different from open site to a closed site. In that sense, multi-sited ethnography takes on to your different levels of how the participant is moving from one place to another, and the researcher also tracks the whole trajectory of how the information, and we can bring out the whole picture of these information that you are trying to gather. And the second important contemporary developments taking place is digital ethnography. Coming back from conventional ethnography to digital ethnography. Today we have everybody is tech savvy, everyone have mobiles, everyone is on the Facebook, everyone is on internet, emails, Google up, this thing, virtual. When you are in the virtual space, for example, how to do this. Today, if you look at family structure, for example, small example, from families, joint family, if you see the trajectory of changes, joint family to extended family to nuclear family to single parent family to online families. Husband is somewhere, wife is somewhere, children are somewhere. Where do they meet? Hemant? WhatsApp, Facebook. Today, it is, whether you like it or not, this is a fact. Online families, including myself. My wife is somewhere, I am somewhere, someone. Where do we meet? Our families. Huh? Child is my mother. No. What I'm trying to give example, someone is in abroad, some wife is here, children are here. How do you see this family? So how to do research on these families? So you have to use digital ethnography. Not necessarily conventionally you stay with them. So what are the package which comes with the digital ethnography? Again, these issues are also comes here. Connectedness. And one more advantage with the digital ethnography is that people they don't scare because you are not in person with them. They don't care whether you like it or not. They're very honest whatever questions you ask them. Because you don't see the researcher. And there is anonymity. Anonymity is there. You don't see the researcher, you simply get track of their addresses and all these things. Diasporic research. How do you do diaspora? Nepali diaspora in America, huge diaspora in the US. I was so amazed when I was been lecturing in many universities in the US. The huge network of Nepali diaspora. I was so amazed in New York, in Washington. Though Nepali communities, then what is happening with these Nepali? Because we cannot say Indian diaspora there. Indian diaspora is again fully, fractured. Telugu community. Within Telugu also again regional, sub-regional. Malayali, they have another. Within Malayalis again Hindu Malayalis, Christian Malayalis, Muslim Malayalis, Tamilians, Hindu, Sindhis, Punjabis, Patels. It's a completely fractured kind of a thing. Because of the identities people have. We are not judgmental here, but we are looking at the social identities people carry and the networks that they have. Nepali diaspora, one of my friends, he wants to study and he used the entire concept of digital ethnography to collect information, because practically it is not possible to reach everyone in the US. So what kind of ethnography you use? Taking the core principles of ethnographic research but in a digital way. Then comes this confidentiality, then comes this reliability, then comes this validity. How do you encounter all these things when we carry on these digital aspects of in contemporary social science research? And lastly, experimental ethnography. Experimental ethnography in that sense, a researcher has the choice to use any framework. The researcher has the choice to come out with any kind of a methodology or method or a technique. He can experiment to get because it is multi-layered, it is completely complex social phenomena. in that sense, you know, when you are trying to look at into certain sensitive issues like, you know, kind of, we could draw many issues in terms of privacy issues, or you can terms of governmental things that which is happening, how you are being surveillance with the government, or what kind of you know, sexuality studies, LGBT studies. You know, these kinds of LGBT studies requires these kinds of experimental ethnography. LGBT study, you cannot become one of them and join the group and become, so what identity that you take when you study these you know these groups with different personality identities. So in that sense, and again, people who are with the terminal illness, you know, you cannot even, you know, they are highly, you know, when people are suffering from terminal illness, or people who are being with long time substance drug abuse, how do you do ethnography with these people? They never entertain you. So one has to, the researcher has the capacity or the audacity to change or to do experiments within his own research process rather, because it is not as straightforward as a conventional ethnographic research in field settings. They go to a village, start living with them, learning their language, sharing their food, dancing with them. It is not in that way. When you are talking to a person who is in completely at the terminal stage, it could be drug abuse, or it could be battling with some long-term epidemic, or people who have these you know, multiple identity or personalities with or altered personalities, what we call in the whole LGBTQ research literature. What we say is that, you know, how do we identify with them? Because they have these identity issues and coming of or language issues or minorities, you know, because you are in a majority standpoint, they are in a minority standpoint. So entire together, if you look at one umbrella term, what we call is critical ethnography. So when we understand, when we say critical ethnography, how critical you are in understanding. Critical in the sense that you are not harsh on it. Critical in the sense that how best you can bring the insights, given the time period, given the methodological apparatus that you are equipped to bring the best out of the chosen area, so that we can bring it to the produced in the form of a text, or produced in the form of a film, or produced in the form of documentary. It all depends upon what is the end product that when you give this ethnographic product. What time is it?
5, sir.
5. So
4:45.
I think it's very taxing. I must stop here. So I just gave you an overall picture of the entire ethnographic research process and its various things. Now, if you have anything like that, I'm very happy to share with you.